nice. The young guys from Australia, Objective Racing, they'll be thrilled with that result there. Colley and Connor have done a great job of holding off the New Zealanders 77 there.
Now, Jim Colley is not a household name yet, but maybe he will be. My name's Andy Rice. I'm from sailjuice.com. I'm calling from the UK, and I'm speaking to Jim Colley from the other side of the world in Sydney. Hi, Jim. Thanks for joining me on the line.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks very much for having me.
So, Jim, you and your mate Shaun Connor sailing the 49 together. As I said, and I hope you don't mind me saying, you're not household names yet, but you have beaten some household names, and most notably, you did so in one of the races at the 49er World Championships in Auckland at the end of 2019. So just tell me about how your regatta had gone so far and how you were feeling going into this particular race.
Yeah, so I think this is the second last race of the qualifiers. So day 3, we'd had a fairly good day 1 and 2. Most of our results have been a top 10, although we did have a drop. So the goal for today was just keep putting good top 10s on the board. We knew if we did that, we'd be sweet to qualify for gold. Going into this race, the race before, I think we'd had a sort of 12th or 13th, so it wasn't ideal. We knew we had to put 2 pretty good races together. So there was a bit of that sort of lingering in the back of the head come this race. But we were really happy with the boat speed, especially in the lighter breeze, which the whole of this day was. So we knew if we could just keep clean air, keep the boat clean, and keep sailing fast, then we knew we were in with a couple of good results. So that was sort of the mentality going in. We weren't I wasn't focusing on trying to qualify, not qualify for gold too much at all, because I knew if I started thinking about that, then I'd lose focus on everything else. So it was just take it one race at a time coming into today.
Yeah, well, that good old cliche, but the reason why it's a cliche is because every good sportsman knows that all you can do is control the moment. There's no point in dreaming about what's coming further down the track. In terms of what was expected to come down the track of this particular race course, just tell us your pre-start thoughts and what your starting strategy was going to be and why.
So the pre-start or the strategy we had for this race, we liked the early right, and you'll see that we port started to dig into that early right pressure. The middle of the course we were pretty open-minded about, but we had a bit of an inkling that if the cloud broke up, which it sort of did, the top left could come quite good. So we were pretty keen. You see us port starting here, but we were pretty keen not to go too far. Our goal was just once we had a nice lane.
Sorry, that's you sort of, that was you 4 boats up, was it?
Yes, yeah, correct.
Okay, so you're going out on port tack. We see you in the middle of our picture now. Yeah. So you're happy with your start so far?
Yeah, very happy. And now we're pretty much just looking, we feel like we're in the best right pressure. And so we're just looking for an opportunity to go back, basically, and just take the long starboard out to middle and then to top left was the goal.
So you got a German, it looks like, who's going to have to just duck behind you. So far, so good. And you've got a nice, lovely, clean lane out there. So it's all going beautifully to plan so far.
Yeah. So, clean air on today was massive because it was that sort of marginal straight legs trapeze. And if you had the ability to sort of put the bow down, put your legs straight and really send it, you were legs ahead of anyone that was in dirty air. So clean air was a premium today for sure.
So just identify some of the other leading contenders here. Who's the Danish boat here?
Good question. I can't quite remember who that one was. We've got, I think Pete and Blair had a pretty good start middle. The Brazilians just above them. And there are a couple of Aussies down the pin end as well that did quite well. And the Swiss, I think, also were looking quite good about halfway up the work. So it was all to play for off the line.
But you didn't like where the Danes were in terms of you wanted to avoid early left because you thought there was going to be a bit of a hole there. I don't know how.
Yeah, look, Yeah, we'd seen holes there in the race prior and on a couple of days training, and we wanted to give ourselves more options. Basically, we didn't want to pin ourselves to the bottom left.
Okay, so that Danish boat nominally is in the lead. We know that at this stage these leaderboards don't mean an awful lot, but Hansen and Sletten looking good on the left-hand side. Burling and Chuk somewhere in the middle, along with Hedstrom and Hamill. They're also sort of middle left. Let's see, where are you at the moment?
Good question.
Yeah,
probably near the rum line
at the moment, but
yeah.
So how's it looking now in terms of you see your rivals on the far side of the course from you? How do you think they're going relative to you?
This is when I started to get a little bit worried because the left started to come good a bit earlier than I thought it was going to. So we were definitely starting to get a bit worried now, and a couple of the boats that tacked around about now were looking quite good, and we're definitely going to cross us. So we sort of had to make the call whether we just undertack them and consolidate, what was potentially a bit of a loss, or take some sterns and sort of back our instinct that the top left was going to come good. So at the moment, it was getting a little bit worrying for sure.
Yeah, they look okay on the left, don't they? In terms of how the Swiss boat has gone across on port tack, it's coming in well ahead of the boats on the right-hand side at the moment.
So that's us just about to duck the Swiss there.
Right,
they'd definitely made a fair bit of a gain on us, which we were worried about, but we were still fairly happy with the fact that we were digging left, and the ley line was miles away. So we were, while we took a bit of an initial loss, we were still pretty happy to continue out to the left.
So every time you were crossing the stern of one of those boats, the Danes or the Swiss or whatever, you were thinking, yep, that's fine. You carry on, boys. I'm happy to keep on plugging out further this way.
I wouldn't have said it was fine, but I wasn't too fast yet. As long as we kept our lane clean and nobody sort of had another dig back out to the left and slammed on us, I was pretty confident we'd be okay.
And so there is that question. If you think the left is strong, how far into that ley line do you dig? Do you always try and give yourself a little bit more room to work with if you do need to tack away?
Yeah, I think especially on a day like today where having a clean lane is so important. You generally do just push that little bit extra because you just don't want to be compromised by anyone ever. So that was definitely the theme of today and a lot of this regatta.
And how was your boat speed relative to other boats in these kind of conditions?
Yeah, it was good. We were really happy with our setup in this sort of marginal stuff. We had a really, really nice sort of selection of sails that we'd pulled up, and every day we sailed in this stuff, we were pretty happy with the boat speed. So that was a relief. something you could always back that you'd be pretty quick.
Wow, that's always nice to have. We saw Burling and Chuk pretty much the furthest left, only the Swedes even further left than them. Is that normal to see Burling and Chuk so far to the extreme of the bulk of the fleet?
It is a little bit, I think. Throughout this regatta, I saw them sort of playing the middle, chipping away a lot up the middle, playing quite a conservative strategy. But I think in terms of qualifying, there was probably no need for them to take much risk at this stage. Surely that is risk out to the far left, isn't it? Yeah, but there was a lot of boats that went further. So I think what they did was pretty conducive to what I'd seen them do in the past. And if I was in their spot, I probably would have done the same.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. What was it like racing with the big guns? How confident do you feel competing against them at this level, at this stage of your career?
8 months ago or something, I would have said definitely not very confident. But I was just lucky enough to do some really great work with some great people when I came back from the Europeans after a pretty disappointing regatta. We just worked really hard on building that confidence in myself, first of all, and then Shaun and I and a team, just building a great atmosphere around our sailing. And, we sort of changed our mindset to, instead of going sailing and trying to beat people, we just went sailing and tried to be, I guess, the best version of ourselves that we could, and sail the best that we could. So this regatta was one of the first regattas that we focused really hard on, just sailing the boat to the best of our ability, not worrying about where anyone else was.
And is that you that we see just
it really showed.
Left of screen?
Yeah, we were just left of screen there. So we tacked and had the lane going back to we were probably 10 boat lengths underlay.
Okay. So in a really nice spot. So that's worked out really nicely for you, doing that little jiggle up to the left-hand side.
Yeah. And as we got closer to the top mark, the lefty just sort of wound in really nicely. It was definitely one of those moments where you definitely feel a bit lucky. All
right. Well, I mean, you have to create those moments that put you in a lucky position. So, don't give too much of it up to luck. Now, who are you thinking about most? You've got the Brits on your right to leeward of you, and you've got another Aussie team up on your shoulder. Who are you thinking about the most? Definitely
all the boats to leeward. We were close enough to the ley line that anyone on our hip probably was going to end up overlaid anyway. So as soon as we tacked, it was just go as fast as possible, put the bow down and just try and get over the boats to leeward as much as possible. Because we knew there was so many boats out to the right. We knew that there was going to be a pretty big gravy train coming into the top mark, so we just had to be as fast as possible to get in front of it.
And it looks like you've nailed that ley line. It looks like you're a little bit close on it, a little bit sort of slightly uncomfortable, but no, actually there it looks fine. How did it feel?
No, it felt fine. We gave ourselves enough, so we were tacking outside the 3-length zone, just in case we were going to be in close proximity to other boats.
Sorry, I mistook you for one of the other flags. That's you tacking now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so very sweet. Very, very sweet. I also saw the Omanis were up there. That was a surprise to me, but Oman doing well in this race as well. So round you go. Anything other than a straight set in your mind?
No, not the top left was so powerful that it was a straight set and get as far away from the fleet as quickly as possible, basically.
Fair enough. And right behind you, you've just got your blue kite up there, and then there's a red kite going up behind you, and that's none other than the multiple world champions Burling and Chuk. So you got some class on your ass, if I dare I say it.
Yeah. It was funny. As soon as we rounded, it was like, right, the challenge is on. You got the best foot and arse sails in the world trying to chase you down.
Look at the mess there. You must be very pleased to be out of that mess. I mean, there's I mean, you look back at this now and you realise why sometimes the rich get richer in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. There was pretty much every race of this Worlds we saw it when there weren't a heap of massive shifts. Yeah, if you got around the top mark clean, you were gone.
Now, at this stage, with the best 49er sailors in the world, some would say the best sailors in the world, bar none, hot on your heels. In climbing terms, they call it wheel wobble, where your legs start to shake a little bit. Did you have any of that leading a race in a world championship?
I could probably sit here and tell you I didn't, but there was definitely a bit of that going on for sure. My goal as soon as we hoisted was just I knew which way I wanted to go on the course. It wasn't from then on. I didn't think it was a challenging race strategically, so I knew which way we wanted to go. I knew we had enough boat speed, and so it was just a matter of not worrying about them and just focusing on making our boat go as fast as possible. Just focusing on every next wave, every next gust, and just trying to stay as present as possible and not really think about them. It's easy to say and hard to do, but it's something we worked pretty hard on. So it was nice to see it pay off in this race.
Well, you're holding your own at the moment. They're pretty much on your line with the red kite, Burling and Chuk. They jibe. Oh, it's a simultaneous jibe. Okay. And let's see who executes. You both execute pretty well. Are you happy with that jibe?
I was, but looking back at the footage, they did a slightly quicker turn. So it was sort of good to watch and realise that we've still got a fair bit to work on, which is great. But in terms of the positioning, it was happy days. As long as we kept our air clean until the ley line for the bottom marks, we were in a pretty good spot.
And how's your straight line speed compared with the world champions?
Yeah, it was good. I don't think we saw they might have gained a little bit towards the very end when we wound into a bit of a light lift, which was going to happen anyway, but we were pretty happy. We managed to just hold the gauge and keep the bow forward enough to keep our air clean and sort of protect the jibe, which is what we wanted to do. So overall, no dramas.
And what's the skill involved in making a 49er go at top speed in these kind of conditions? It looks quite easy from the drone shots, but what's your focus?
Yeah, I'm basically thinking about just trying to stay as hot and as charged as possible. You really do just want to stick it as high and fast as you can and get as much trapeze weight swinging as you can to get the apparent forward. It's sort of that breeze strength wherever you can get your legs straight and get the apparent forward, you just take off.
But, are you down at the bottom of your knots? Are you max leverage?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I'm probably in the foot strap. Shaun's probably just walking up and down the wing a little bit to get the whole pitch exactly right. But I'm pretty much in the foot strap, lower my trapeze and sticking it as hard as I can, and just focusing on my steering groove.
And it's always noticeable with Burling and Chuk how low they seem to trapeze, especially downwind. I don't know if they've taken it further than others, but I'm sure that if people weren't already, that's very much become the way of doing things now, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You pretty much want to get as low as you can, so you're horizontal with the boat. Anything above that, you're just losing riding moment. So you just got to sort of just have the balls to get yourself nice and low.
And so ideally, you'd actually want to be heavier at this stage, would you, for these kind of conditions?
Potentially. I think we were during this regatta, we were actually one of the lighter teams. I lost a fair bit of weight going into it. So
intentionally so?
Probably half.
Right.
But no, look, it didn't matter too much as long as we're sort of in the 160 ballpark. Then you're fine. You definitely don't want to be too heavy because then everyone's sort of got straight legs and you don't, which can be problematic.
Fair enough.
So now we just sort of landed the jibe in front of them and laying through to the right turn, which was our plan. We were pretty established that the left was going to be good for the whole of the second upwind. So we just wanted to lead into the right turn. And I was actually a little bit surprised that they decided to jibe and go the left turn.
So for you, it was all about the power of the left. It would have served you well on the previous beat. It had been your pre-start game plan. Meanwhile, let's see how the world champions Burling and Chuk do on the far side. Nothing you can do about that. You just got to make the best of the left, which is basically you've had exactly the race that you've wanted so far, haven't you?
Pretty much. It couldn't have gone much better from this point. And when we saw them split, exactly what you said, there was nothing we could really do about it. And they were the only ones that split, and we were, as nice as it is to win a race, a second was a keeper's score. So we just wanted to cover the rest of the fleet. And if they found a ride out there, then there's not much you can do about it, really.
So you're going where you want to go. Now, you mentioned earlier about building confidence, and it sounds like you took a bit of a knock at the Europeans in Weymouth last summer in 2019. So what went wrong at those Europeans, and what did you want to address?
I wouldn't have said we took a knock during that event. It was more like the Parma, Genoa Europeans leg of our trip, which is what all the Aussies did in that stint. And I just found that I couldn't put the same performances that I was doing in training or domestic racing into international racing. I was basically just sitting there there's no other way to say it, but getting just psyched out by everyone else. You go into a start, you start questioning yourself. You start looking at everyone else thinking, what makes me special? Why can I beat these guys? And that was something that, I knew was there, but I didn't really realise at the time till I got back home to Oz and started talking. I met some really cool psychologists in the sport and started talking to them. And we just started to build this program that we call the self-reward program, where basically you just reward yourself with every good little thing that you do on the boat, off the boat, whatever it is. And it just brings the focus back onto you.
Give us an
more
example of that.
But like for, when we rounded the top mark, I could have been thinking, Pete and Blair are high, Pete and Blair are faster. I've got to cover this. I've got to do that. And what we practiced and all I was thinking about at that time was basically make every wave the best wave that you've ever dealt with. And every time you do deal with a wave, how great was that wave and how good was Shaunie's hoist at the top mark and how good is it that we're in this position? And so that was sort of the program that we worked on. Yeah. And that, there was a lot of other stuff that we addressed as well, but that was the biggest thing. And yeah, it just paid dividends. It meant that we just sat there and focused on our sailing rather than everyone else. And that was, that was probably the biggest shift between, the Europeans in this regard.
Okay. So we already talked about the one race at a time approach that athletes take. You've taken that to another level by the sound of it, one wave at a time. So you're really trying to be in the moment. Is that what this self-reward program does for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just staying really present, really in the moment. If you let your mind wander, at all, you're not sailing the boat 100%. So yeah, that was what we aimed to do. And it took a lot of practice, and we're still really practicing it, but we've seen it pay off a lot in our sailing. So yeah, that's really great. And I'm really grateful for the guys that helped me on that path for sure.
So is it verging into sort of mindfulness practices and what people might do in meditation and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did a heap of that stuff before this regatta as well. Got right into it, which was really cool. It's just a whole other side of the sport that I think a lot of the time isn't, people don't think about it enough. And in sailing, most of it is a mental sport. So it's so important. And
was this for both of you? So did Shaun get into this as much as you did?
I got into it first because there was a lot of stuff that I felt I needed to address within me. So I got into it. I got into it first, and then when I was happy with sort of where I was, then we brought Shawnee in as well, and we both got on the program, and that just took our relationship to a really great place as well.
Let's pick that up in a moment. Let's just come back to the race. So now you're crossing the Kiwis, Burling and Chuk, who went the other way. It looks like they're now just tacking to leeward of you, but that's quite a gain that you've made on the Kiwis. So actually your threat now perhaps is more the other Australian team, Oz 119, on your shoulder. Yeah,
definitely. I was pretty surprised about how much we gained out that bottom mark split. But yeah, our biggest threat was the Aussies on our hip, and we knew how powerful the top left was going to be. So it was around now we started to have some serious thoughts about whether we should be going back and just protecting them a little bit. It's funny, those Aussies on our hip was Dave and Fang, and Dave was... I really wanted to beat Dave because Dave was actually my Opti coach when I was in Optis. So there was a little bit of that going on for sure.
Right. So you've got the option to cover the Olympic champions or your Optimist coach. So you're more about the Optimist coach. Love it.
Yeah.
So they're another Aussie team that I'm thinking are probably quite happy to be up this end of the course as well. I mean, great sailors as well, but we are talking about racing against absolute world class from all over the world here. So two Aussies right up at the sharp end of the fleet. That must feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the Aussies had a great performance on today. So no, it was great to see a couple of new teams as well getting up there. Yeah, it's really promising for the future.
Now, this is at a bit of a distance, so I'm not sure how much you can tell from this. What do you read from this picture?
It's a nice gap. Pete and Blair have just gone back. So yeah, there we go. I think we just decided to cover them, and that was also our opportunity to head back over to the left and just keep an eye on the other Aussie boys. I don't think they show it, but we ended up really close. I think we only just crossed them. Which
right? So they made quite a gain.
Sorry.
So the other Aussies made a bit of a gain then.
Yeah, for sure. again, like they were the only boat that went past our stern when we tacked initially onto port. So there wasn't much we could do. But I feel that when we did go back and cover them, that was the right thing to do, because as we got closer to the top, the left just became better and better.
Coming back to the confidence and the psychology work that you've been working on, that the old sort of Aussie stereotype is that, the back in the Paul Hogan days, is that you just toughen up, drink a beer and get on with it. I think of sort of, you probably can't see it in this, but just here, high performance sailing, the old skiff boys, they wouldn't have been doing this psychology stuff, would they, in Sydney 30 years ago?
Some of them might have been, I'm not sure, but it's interesting. It's not something that I feel is covered, enough, or has been covered enough in sailing. Certainly, some people have, for sure, with great success. But I think the broader spectrum, it could definitely be something that's delved into more, for sure.
Yeah, and presumably your journey there hasn't stopped either. What are you working on next in terms of exploring how you can move the game on further with the self-reward process, or maybe something else?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting time because we're not training at the moment. And, for us, sadly, we missed game selection. So we've got, 4 years until we want to, well, 3 years till we want to be trying to go for game selection again. So a lot of it is about just taking it day by day, and how we can approach training with a really great mentality. Even at home, we're both just training at home now because we can't go sailing. So how we can approach all those sessions with the same mentality that we'd go into at a world's race. So we can just keep the intensity really high.
Well, here are some of your mates. They're not going to Tokyo 2021 either, but you got two Aussies going right at it here. How confident do you feel that you can keep these guys at bay down this run?
No disrespect to Dave, but I was confident because I felt like if we kept Pete and Blair behind us on the first downwind, we could keep Dave behind us on the second downwind.
No, I guess that's fair enough. That's not dissing them too badly, is it? What's with the barefoot thing with Pete Burling? Why would anyone do the barefoot thing? Do you do it?
I do in training, but I don't do it in racing. I got in trouble by too many coaches by going barefoot.
And I think Pete gets in trouble with his coach. I think Hamish Wilcox has a go at him, but Hamish used to win 470 World Championships barefoot as well. So, these coaches, they tell you not to do it, but they were doing it back in the day.
I love sailing barefoot, but especially that boat wasn't overly grippy either. So the last thing I wanted to do was just be slipping around the back. So
what is the benefit, do you reckon?
I feel you get a little bit more feel in the light breeze through your feet, and you feel like you're not stomping through the boat as much when you do manoeuvres when you're in barefoot. It feels a bit tidier, but at the same time, the chance of slipping over goes up exponentially.
Right. So we can definitively say that skin is not as grippy as rubber on specially designed sailing shoes.
No.
Right. Okay. That seems like an awful lot to give up.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure. I think it's just something he's done for a while, so he's probably used to it.
Yeah. So we're seeing the rest of the fleet. Just check. Can you hear me still?
Yep.
Yeah. I thought I might have pressed my mute button, but anyway, here we are. It's you on the right hand side. It's Dave and Fang in the middle, and it's Burling and Chute with the red kite. So it's a 3-boat breakaway. You look very comfortable holding those top 3 spots right now.
Yeah, we put a nice little gap in the first 100 metres to Dave, which just opened up a nice buffer so we could jibe if we wanted to without fear of him covering us. And then it was a pretty similar strategy to the downwind before. We'd just go. We didn't want to commit ourselves to lead, but we knew the left was pretty good all the way down the course. So we were happy to continue as far as we could. I think we've just jibed there, and Dave's jibed pretty well on top of us. So, we were pretty happy. We were pretty happy there.
Yeah, you're bow forward, so you're pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
Burling and Chute look like they're going to follow you and jibe on a similar kind of line. Actually, looks like maybe they're going a little bit further.
Yeah, I think he did try to go a little further. I think Dave ended up going back just to protect him, but we weren't worried too much about them. We were pretty happy with the gap and our boat speed. So we just decided to minimise manoeuvres. In that sort of breeze, getting the boat back up to speed and the apparent forward again after a jibe does take, you lose a couple of boat lengths every jibe. So minimising jibes was on the agenda for sure.
Right, there's that jibe. So the Aussies in second have just jibed. So now that creates a bit of a dilemma for you. But what are you thinking? Keep those manoeuvres down to a minimum still? Yeah,
pretty much. I think, we were probably only 75 metres above the ley line anyway. So doing 2 extra jibes, for in my mind wasn't really worth it. We were fast enough, and we only needed to do 1 and in. So, and the more that the other 2, the second and third boats fought amongst themselves, the better for us as far as we were concerned.
So that was probably also a pretty good move by them, because they create separation with you, the leader, and it also creates more of a good defence against the Kiwis if they do find something different on that side of the course.
Yeah, exactly. If I had been Dave, I probably would have, we probably would have done a similar thing. But what it did do was give us a bit more of a buffer as well, which was nice.
Yes. So are you enjoying this race? Do you allow yourself to enjoy these moments?
Yeah, absolutely. We really make an effort to enjoy every part of the racing. That's why we do it at the end of the day. If we weren't enjoying it, we wouldn't be out there. So we're definitely enjoying it. We're definitely, there's definitely nerves as well. But I think right about now, I was probably starting to realise that we couldn't get caught. So there was a bit of a smile breaking through.
Excellent. So a very, very well executed race. And here you are. This is probably your final jibe, your final manoeuvre of the race. And it looks like the breeze has dropped off a little bit. Takes you a while to get back up to speed, but you're home and dry now.
Yeah. That was a good feeling. But at the same time, we knew there was a couple more races to go, and it wasn't over yet. So it was a muted celebration, I think.
Oh, well, you've got to stay focused. But now we can look back on it, and winning your first race in a world championship in Olympic class, that really is a milestone, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And it was great to do it on a day that, we knew we had to perform to make the gold fleet. So to be able to pull that race out under pressure was, it was a great feeling, a really great feeling. But we had a lot of people watching.
Sorry, go on. No, what were you saying?
We had a lot of people watching on at home, a lot of people supporting us. So we got some really nice messages when we got in. So that was really special.
Fantastic. And the coverage of this event, we're watching the recorded coverage now, but the live coverage was amazing.
Absolutely.
So the next race, you didn't win the next race, but you were saying earlier that in some ways you were more proud of what you did in the following race. So tell us the reasons why.
The following race, the clouds came over and the breeze got quite shifty, and I think we ran at the first top mark in like 8th or 9th, and we just sailed really nicely through the fleet. We got a couple of good shifts on the second upwind, and just it felt like we chipped away and probably sailed a bit more of a conservative race, but put together a nice one. I think we grabbed a third in the last race, and that sort of sealed the deal, which was nice. But yeah, I was really happy with the third race for sure.
So that must have made you one of the highest performing boats in the whole fleet that day.
It might have done. I didn't actually check, but I think we ended up qualifying 10th or something, which was very much inside the top 25. So happy days.
Fantastic. Meanwhile, Will and Sam Phillips have qualified for Australia. They've been going at it a long, long time. I've got to know those boys a little bit, so I'm really pleased for them as well. I know that's probably hard for you to hear, but I mean, we're stoked for them as well. We've been training with them for a while now, and they're such a nice group of guys. When we first started, they always had time for us. They'd always be happy to help us where they could. So look, I'm stoked for them. Couldn't have gone to better guys, really. So we're gonna be training with them up until the game, so we can get back on the water and assist them in getting the best result that they can and learning as much as we can from them while they're still here. So we're stoked for them for sure. And then, of course, because it's now Tokyo 2021, it's a compressed cycle for Marseille 2024. I mean, that's going to come around really quick, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. I'm not sure what will happen with all the country qualifiers and stuff, but yeah, it's going to be. They generally say that 4 years still isn't enough time, so to do it in 3 is going to be a pretty good challenge for sure. But it's everyone's going to be in the same boat, as they say, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be time is also always the thing in shortest supply, isn't it? And it will be even more so. Yeah. So let's just enjoy that leaderboard there. So there you are, Colley and Connor at the top of the board.
Yeah, feels good.
And you look at right at the bottom of that one. I don't know how many down we're going, but maybe down to 15th or so. Hedstrom and Hamill had a really good start. They were going out pretty well poked out on the left-hand side early on, and we saw the Swiss Schneider and Coujon right up there in the front pack up that first beat. So is interesting how when you see those drone shots of the hoist at the first mark, it's easy to see how people can get caught up in that, and suddenly you're looking okay, and the next moment you're right back in the thick of it.
Yeah, when it's that close around the top mark, anything could happen, and that was, every top mark at that Worlds was like that, because it was, a lot of the racing was like this sort of marginal conditions, and everyone's going more or less the same speed with not too many shifts. So yeah, if you couldn't escape the bunch, you were in all sorts come the top mark for sure.
Well, Jim, thank you very much for that. What an amazing milestone in your career. You're only, 22 years old, so you got plenty of time to go yet.
Fingers crossed.
And let's hope that this lockdown doesn't last for too long. How are you making sure that you're becoming a better sailor, despite the fact that you're not getting on the water very much?
We're both doing heaps of off-water training, so it's a good opportunity to get some strength and conditioning in, and some injury prevention. And there's a lot of equipment testing and all that kind of stuff we can do as well. So there's still plenty to do. As you said, we've only got a 3-year cycle for the next game. So the more we can, get the off-water stuff ticked off now, the better. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to do, and we're both trying to finish the uni degrees as well. So,
what are you working on? What are you studying?
I'm studying in my 5th year of a 4-year engineering degree, with probably a couple more years to go. So
oh wow!
It's been a process, but we're getting there. So hopefully not too many more years left.
So useful skills to take into a technical sport like sailing as well, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice to have something else to focus on sometimes as well.
Jim, thanks very much for your time. Wishing you the best for this year, and look forward to catching up with you in real life somewhere on the circuit.
Thanks very much, Andy. Thanks, guys. Cheers.